Welcome in, Kindred and Kind. I'm Forgotten Ronin. We're back with another Dev Diary, uh, and we're getting close to the uh, most current Dev Diary. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting these last six, I believe, broken up into two videos, three each. So let's begin with Dev Diary 21, Fashion Matters. And again, if you like the video, please like and share and subscribe as well. And we begin with welcome kindred to our latest Bloodlines to Dev Diary from the team at the Chinese Room. So tonight's diary is about the different outfits that you can collect and wear, and a vampire's clothing is an important tool in their hunting arsenal. Do you wish to blend in unnoticed, lure your victims with your beauty, or intimidate others into submission? What you wear sets a first impression, so choose your dinner attire wisely. So the video that's currently on the left is one of the Anarch leaders, I believe, Katsumi. So I believe this may be the first time that we meet them, maybe. Um, I mean, it may look like it. I'm not 100% sure. But the visual identity of each clan has been displayed in countless vivid images, and it was crucial for us to capture this in the clan outfits. At a glance, each outfit should convey the essence of its clan, whether it be its refined opulence of the Ventru or the sinister threat of the Banu Hakim. We worked meticulously to compartmentalize and distill these visual styles to their purest form, ensuring players truly feel they are embodying their chosen role. And then, so for the Bruja, we have like the leather jacket, uh, like Rough Rider, biker esque. For the Banu Hakim, it's the sneaky, but also um, it's the sneaky, but also workable outfit where you're not being held back and you have freedom of movement. The Ventru is just powerful. Where you take a look at it and you're just like, to me, it's the status symbol, plus it does also feel like it's a kind of like a brick wall where it's something that it'll take a lot to push that over or just make it look like it's not powerful or just good. For the Tremere I feel like are a little difficult to clothe, and the way they have chosen to actually do the clan clothing for them is actually pretty decent. Because they are just book smarts and they do keep to themselves. But it's not a terrible thing. And overall, all the clothing options for each clan do just look good. So I don't really see any issue with any of them. They did good on this end, in my eyes. And then the concept art inspiration. So while coming up with ideas for each clan's costumes, we've had so much flavor to draw from. Making sure to incorporate their history, subcultures, and preferred activities gave us opportunities to explore different shapes, details that can fit the clan style. The Bruja are rough and ready. They need hard-wearing materials that reflect their rebellious nature. Denim, leather, and band t-shirts blend into punk and rock bars. We added details like rips, anarchic logos, and badges to show the Bruja's anti-establishment streak. The Tremere's history as mortal mages and their use of arcane powers inspired us a lot when designing the clan. The outfits reflect a more antiquated time while also incorporating a modern element. We considered how practical they were to wear while using powerful ranged attacks, so the arms are less restricted for those large magical gestures. Red was, of course, the first choice for accent colors in clothing and jewels, as the Tremere can control blood. We wanted the Banu Hakim to be a modern take on stealth style clothing, sticking to the shadows, finding ways to conceal your identity, being able to move freely and silently through the environment unencumbered by jingling jewelry or heavy armor. They can also use celerity, so we use accessories such as scarves, hoods, and pieces that add sense of movement to their actions while hiding their face. The Venture are defined by their wealth and status, so each version reflects a different kind of upper social class and culture. They wear fashion that is more about showing who they are to people rather than pieces ready for combat. To this end, we use colors and styles that are opulent, almost regal, and every detail is there to show that they are ready for business or to show off their expensive jewelry. So that's where we basically got our stuff from. And for the concept, to get from the concept art to what is here, overall, it's good. Um, I believe most of it. I believe most of it traveled well. The Bruja just has a different jacket type, pant type, but most everything else did make its way over, which I think is really good. Most of it wasn't bad. Most wasn't bad. It wasn't bad at all. So I personally believe that this was just good design from the get go. And then sculpting the fashion. So creating the outfits for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 is more than just a matter of fashion. You have to think about the character's usability, animation, and so on. We started with setting a benchmark costume. In our case, this was Tremere 3, which served as the initial guide for clothing fit and design direction before even having the masculine fire model ready. This outfit became the foundation for future costumes, helping our team understand how different clothing types would fit and move. From long coats to tight, sleek outfits, our goal is to offer players a variety of styles to suit their tastes. Concept art is just the beginning. We evolve these designs into something not only looks good in cutscenes and fighting, but also considers animation and practicality. Textures are given an uplift as they transition from 2D to 3D model, adding depth and realism, and each clan has its own unique flair. For instance, Ventrue 4 stands out as a favorite, while Banu Hakim 2 features this great hood. Many of the costumes feature dramatic elements like big collars or materials that add visual complexity: leather, fur, denim, silk, and cashmere. We think all of these through with great importance. For instance, these outfits need to be functional for vampires running up buildings. And even though vampires rarely feel cold, we don't want them breaking the masquerade. Which, in all honesty, both of these look good, and I do hope they keep bringing up optimization, and I hope that that is still one of the pillars that they're trying to get to. So the sunset differences for different outfits. For different outfits for our protagonists, we took into account the different reactions from players and the effect the player might have on passers-by. Each outfit is curated not only to the clothing they are wearing, but the folly are mixed for the clan that is outfit is attributed to, creating a more stealth-like feeling or aggressive presence that one might expect between Banu Hakim versus a Bruja. So, unlocking and equipping outfits. So, as you play through the game, you'll gain access to a wide variety of outfits. These outfits not only allow you to set the fantasy you might want to play as, but also have an effect on the inhabitants of Seattle. One of the goals we had for outfits was to really lean in and reflect each clan's style and personality, while also offering lots of dress up options. After all, fashion is king. With that in mind, we decided to unlock the outfits based on what abilities you have gained access to, because it's possible to play as a Bruja but still gain access to Venture abilities. You can unlock and wear all the outfits in game simply by playing, but you will naturally unlock the outfits for your chosen clan earlier. Honestly, some of the outfits are as cool that sometimes I choose the order in which I unlock abilities based on the outfits I'll gain from the unlock. I'm partial to some of the streetwear of the Banu Hakim. Who doesn't love a good hoodie? I mean, honestly, they gave him that fucking hoodie, and that hoodie is amazing. Uh, but with a wide range of options to unlock, I'm confident there's plenty of fashion to suit everyone's tastes. Yeah, no. Banu Hakim 2, so good. That hood is so good. So, fashion matters in chatter too. Prey can be scared off by sudden movements, loud noises, or things that don't seem quite right. So, for fire, if they want to feed on the right blood residents, they need to keep in mind that just knowing that the angry sex worker nearby is full of cleric blood and ready for a fight is just step one. Step two is making sure that you're wearing something that will push them over the edge and really make their blood boil. Dressing and acting like a wealthy John could get them talking, but if you approach them looking like someone who likes it rough, that might scare them out of their angry mood, and then all that delicious cleric potential goes away. So, as a Bruja, I'm sorry I'm having a bad day, but I'll have it somewhere else, away from you. And then I have to get the name of your tailor. Are those custom? I love them. Um, I get it. Okay. And then many people in Seattle judge a book by its cover, but a kindred knows that it's what you have inside that counts. You know, the blood. All right. So that's the fashion. Now let's go to the music. So, Dev Diary 22, the music of Seattle. So, Kindred, welcome to another Dev Diary where we hear from the team at the Chinese Room and learn about the development of Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. Tonight, we're joined by audio director Dan Hendricks, who lifts the veil on the Chinese Room's approach to music for this game and introduces the composers behind the key scores for the game. And we are excited to announce that the exceptionally talented Craig Stewart Garfinkel and the internationally renowned Aymar Non are joining the team for Bloodlines 2 as lead composers. In addition, fans can look forward to the inclusion of music created by the legendary Rick Schaefer, known for his contributions to the first Bloodlines game. For the music direction, the core of any the Chinese Room game always revolves around the narrative, the story, and its characters. Across all disciplines, our focus is to serve the narrative as well as we can. Music is, of course, a very powerful tool for this, as it can provide subtext and unspoken meaning in a way that no other art form can. All right, now, a key aspect of the music direction has therefore always been to develop strong, memorable themes for the main characters in Bloodlines 2. These themes are interwoven throughout the game, sometimes directly in a scene involving their characters, and other times indirectly, perhaps when we want to subtly hint about deeper, unrevealed narrative entanglements. Another important aspect of musical direction has been to develop a style that fits our game. There are numerous considerations that inform this: the diverse cast of characters you meet, the noir inspired art style, the motivations for the player character Fire, the pace and violence of the combat encounters, and of course, the rich musical heritage from the original Bloodlines game released in 2004. We looked for the score to invoke a sense of timelessness, a sensation of age and melancholy. We also wanted the music to express a strong sense of contrast, of opposing extremes, and to be a vital part of the game's narrative, adding depth to the moody, nocturnal atmosphere. The original Bloodlines had a captivating and immersive feel, as well as a strong musical identity, which of course served us well as a point of reference and inspiration. So, did the music written for Heartsuit Labs' version of Bloodlines 2, more on that later, references also came from many other places, such as the OSTs from films like Only Lovers Left Alive, Under the Skin, or the Coen brothers' Oolwah, as well as jazz and choral music such as Georgian chanting. Through their extreme versatility and sheer tour de force of musical capability, our lead composers, Craig Stewart Garfinkel and Amar Noon, have molded all these influences into a stunning and expressive soundtrack that perfectly encapsulates the mood and themes of the story being told in Bloodlines 2. The style ranges from distorted guitar feedback, haunting ambient soundscapes, driving heavy combat music to strikingly beautiful, melodic, wistful, and glooming themes. They have made extensive use of creative processing, and unconventional techniques, and the results are outstanding. I can't wait for you to hear it all in game, but for now, uh, over to them to let you know more about the process. Dan Hendricks, the audio director for the Chinese Room. Craig and Amar. Working on the music for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been an incredibly rewarding journey, full of opportunities to experiment with sounds, styles, and instruments. Bloodlines 2 combines the modern urban environment of Seattle with characters that are centuries old, layered with mystery, horror, and allure that makes vampire lore so captivating. Crafting a score for this unique world has allowed us to explore everything from film noir to Eastern European influences. One of the most exciting aspects of working with video game music is the freedom to experiment with rich, dramatic compositions that might not fit into other forms of media. Unlike other music forms, which are often limited by time or structure, video game scores allow for expansive thematic soundscapes that evolve as the player moves through the story. For Bloodlines 2, this freedom has been crucial. We're both supporting an engaging narrative and adding extra depth to each character, many of whom often are many decades old, mysterious, seductive, and dating the soundscape for Bloodlines 2, we wanted to balance the old with the new. The game takes place in a contemporary setting, yet the characters, vampires with decades of history, carry the weight of their respective eras. To embody this for us, it meant combining the harmonic instrumental qualities of film noir with the gritty, raw, and often darkly seductive tones that vampires embody. The main approach for the music in Bloodlines 2 has been the organic nature when we went with for the score. We ended up relying on a lot on manipulated guitars and cello throughout. While listening, remember that even things that might sound like a synth or electronic instruments are often not. It's guitar or cello. Rather than using electronics, we used natural instruments in unusual ways so they were not identifiable. These manipulated instruments provide unsettling quality that fits the game atmosphere, close to the reality, but always slightly distorted, like looking through a fractured lens. We turn to film noir for its atmospheric, harmonic language, and also for its instrumentation. Guitars, strings, and dark piano melodies frequently evoke a classic, brooding feel suitable for characters such as these with long, twisted pasts. But vampires aren't just elegant or tragic, they're also raw, primal, and predatory. To capture this, we infuse guttural and primitive sounds into the score. Deep percussion, drones, and dark sounding elements mimic the underlying danger that lurks beneath the surface, reminding the player that these beings are elegant yet eternally tied to something visceral and untamed. We had the opportunity to incorporate a unique element for one particular quest. In this sequence, an old Victrola plays a traditional aria, serving as both a plot device and a hauntingly beautiful soundtrack. Writing an aria for this was really exciting as it's something you don't normally get to do in video game music. We worked with one of Ireland's top sopranos, Celine Byrne, to create this piece, blending operatic tradition with the game's dark modern tone. This aria stands out as a significant musical moment within the score, but also serves as a narrative clue, weaving music directly into its storytelling. Each character in Bloodlines 2 has their own personality and backstory, which influences the music we created for them. For characters with roots in Balkan and Anatole area, like Fire, we drew from Middle Eastern scales and harmonies, introducing sounds and modes that might be unfamiliar to Western listeners, but evoked an ancient and dark allure. We even had our cellist Adrian Mantu imitate the way traditional instrumentalists would perform on the Balkan fiddle. That's the source of the harmonics and the puncello. Another example is what we did for a certain enemy type Fire would encounter in the game. To give them a distinct sonic identity, we recorded sounds of a shovel being banged at different pitches, creating a unique percussive instrument. This method allowed us to craft a truly raw and organic feel that resonates with our soundscape through the score. The result is a haunting metallic rhythm that's both unsettling and compelling. These recordings became one of the musical identities of the entire score because they were so unique and effective. One of the recurring themes in Bloodlines 2 is seductive danger vampire present. To express this in the score, we relied on slow sensual rhythms and minor tonalities that evoke a sense of allure and mystery. Vampires in Bloodlines 2 are not just terrifying monsters, they possess a fluidity and sexuality that makes them both attractive and dangerous. The use of a human voice has been an essential component in creating this seductive quality. We use vocals to add a deep and atmospheric texture. The voice becomes a living instrument, resonating with the subtle intimacy that is so intrinsic to the vampire's lure. Close, personal, and yet ultimately dangerous. The human voice as an element also adds to the organic nature of the score, and Bloodlines has a dedicated fan base, and with that comes the expectation of continuity, a desire for familiar alongside the new. As composers, this was both an opportunity and a challenge. We wanted to respect the original while expanding its themes and introducing fresh elements that would suit the story of Bloodlines 2. The original Bloodlines score had a distinct sound that many fans hold dear, so in Bloodlines 2, we leaned into some of those established atmospheric qualities, like the dark, moody overtones and the sense of lurking danger. However, we avoided directly replicating any of those old themes. Instead, we focused on the underlying tone that made Bloodlines unique, incorporating noir inspired elements while introducing a more organic approach. Building the world of Bloodlines 2 required a different approach from the fantasy games we've previously worked on, which were set in worlds so different from the real world. Fantasy worlds often call for sweeping orchestras and epic thematic compositions. But Bloodlines 2 demanded a more intimate and introspective score, reflecting a world that is urban, gritty, and inhabited by beings who lurk in the shadows of the modern world. This smaller, more focused soundscape draws the player into the dark underworld of the game's setting. We focused on subtle atmospheric cues that contemplate the game's environmental storytelling, that complement the game's environmental storytelling. The choice to use organic sound allowed us to build a sense of place that feels real and present. Even with things stripped Even within this stripped down approach, the characters' ancient history and their modern urban surroundings of Seattle create a nuanced soundscape that pulls the player deeper into Bloodline 2's world. Creating the music for Bloodlines 2 has been a journey of blending the old with the new, the organic with the manipulated, and the seductive with the terrifying. The project has allowed us to explore unconventional sounds and shapes a soundscape that complements the game's dark, complex world. We hope that as players move through the game, they feel the depth and intricacies that we've tried to instill in the music. Each note, each beat, and each sound is crafted to bring them closer to characters, the setting, and the mystery that lies in the heart of Bloodlines 2. Whether it's the metallic clang of a shovel, the eerie call of a manipulated cello, or the haunting strains of a Victrola aria. Every piece of music is designed to resonate with the world and the stories of Bloodlines 2. So, multiple music system functions have been implemented for Bloodlines 2, enabling us to present the compositions in an immersive and adaptive way. From narrative quest progression to non-linear exploration, combat encounters of varying intensities, cutscenes, conversations, UI, and diegetic score, it all needs to be dynamic and transition smoothly between each other. The challenge has been presenting all of this in an immense way so that the player doesn't, in an immersive way, that the player doesn't notice the complexities of the systems that drive it. A lot of heavy lifting is done in our game engine, Unreal Engine, providing our audio implementation, middleware WYs, the appropriate variables to utilize its music hierarchy effectively. We can go into examples here, combat and diegetic. So combat encounters are divided into four primary states: the exploration, the stealth, the investigate, and the combat. So exploration is enemies are above minimum proximity variable. The stealth is enemies are within the minimum proximity. Investigate, enemies have received a stimulus and are looking for the player. And that combat, they found you. Each of the above states have variables driving them, and we track the number of enemies unaware, aware, and in an active combat, the proximity from the player, and the threat level that the player is under. Threat levels comprised of various factors such as enemies' attack power, maximum health, blood reserve, and player health. All of these feed into the system, allowing us to raise and lower stems and transition between cues according to the action in the game. Players' abilities have come into play with the system, transitioning and ducking depending on the ability performed. For a diegetic system, there are several locations in the game where music plays diegetically, including the Glacier Hotel lobby, the Macam Bar, and the Atrium nightclub. Each of these pose a different spatialization challenge with differing rooms, corridors, doors, and windows. The system has been implemented to ensure that the music fades in naturally as you approach, and diffracts around corners, and is occluded by any barriers that would as it would be in real life. In order to achieve this, we get the location that we want the music to emit from, use it to drive the panning position and volume. Said location is handled via splines that the project position a variable distance ahead or behind the player, which then controls panning, distance, and stereo spread. High frequencies fall off as distance increases, as you would expect, with additional occlusions at specified spline points, as well as functions for doors and doors opening and closing. So that's just explaining how this works. And I've tried working with audio myself, making some things in Unity, and it's a beast. But I feel like they know what they're talking about. I mean, they get paid for it, so I would hope that this does go well, and that its sound design is good. The screenshots above show an example of the quarter spline, where the music position will follow ahead of the player, as well as the pink debug spheres, where the music position will end up when entering the main room. Okay. As many of you know, the development journey of Bloodlines 2 has been through significant changes, initially in the hands of Heartsuit Labs, before transitioning to the Chinese room. This shift presented a unique opportunity, as it left us with an extraordinary collection of music crafted by Rick Schaefer, the original composer behind Bloodlines 1. Rick had been contracted by Paradox and Heartsuit Labs to compose for Bloodlines 2, and the result was a rich library of musical pieces that had yet to find their place in the new direction of the project. Throughout the development process, it became clear that this music was not just a source of inspiration, it had the potential to enhance the game's atmosphere in a profound way. As Craig and Amar began to shape the soundscape for the Chinese room's rendition of Bloodlines 2, we actively sought opportunities to weave Rick Schaefer's compositions into the fabric of the game. Now we are thrilled to share that the stunning pieces have been integrated into various segments of the gameplay. Players will experience them during intense combat encounters, poignant narrative moments, and as they explore key locations within the game world. We believe that this edition not only enriches the game experience, but also beautifully complements the exceptional original score that Amar and Craig have meticulously crafted. The culmination of these musical elements elevates the overall quality of Bloodlines 2, providing an even deeper and more immersive experience for players. And then there's a snippet, but we don't have time. Let us go into the sounds of Seattle. So, hello everybody. Today we return with an audio-focused dev diary. We'll be talking about the sound design and implementation with a specific view on the less obvious aspect that go into it. Our hearing is something described as our shadow sense, sound and listening by and large affect and work at the subconscious level. Our ears are never turned off, even when we're asleep. Our ears and brains continue processing sound. And for sound design, this means that a lot of our work is designed to be subtle and go unnoticed. So in the dev diary, us, the Chinese Room audio team, want to explain the processes and thinking that go into designing audio systems that one might take for granted. Environmental audio, UI sound design, player traversal, combat, and the mix process. These all contribute to making the world of Bloodlines 2 feel alive and believable. There is a lot of craft and passion that goes into getting even the smallest details just right, so I'm proud to let some of the audio team members have the opportunity to show and discuss their work in progress. All right, so that's the first video. This I'm going to be linking the website in the description if you want to watch all these videos for this. Um, it's been in the description, so just take a peek in there. And all you need to do is go to news and go to the specific dev diaries as well. So for the combat audio system, here's a short video to demonstrate the processes when designing the combat sound and use some of the VTM lore to inform our creative sound design work. So the audio of the city. Numerous systems have been developed for the game's urban area, set in Seattle, that enable audio to create an adaptive yet cohesive soundscape. Many of these are designed to go unnoticed, yet there are a lot to show underneath the bonnet. So let's discuss some of these systems here. Because the game is set in Seattle with its many streets, buildings, alleyways, and rooftops, these soundscapes need to be appropriate in every location. To assist with this, we detect the size of the environment around the player at any given time. This is done by firing out traces from the player position and detecting the surrounding geometry, as seen in the below image. Green lines are the traces, and the large green blocks are the geometry. Okay. We combine this information along with other variables to help us control what audio is heard in any given location. Gusts change from blustery rooftops to whistling alleyways. Street activity, such as pedestrians and distant vehicles, change to trash rattling through the back streets, and reverb changes from close early reflections to a wider slap back in the bigger streets. All of this is complemented by positional emitters, such as trees, creaking, buzzing electrical units, city aircon, and human activity bleeding from building windows. Using Unreal's mass framework, we are able to efficiently process thousands of potential sonic sources, allowing us to create a rich ambiance. And then there's another video for a small section of the city demonstrating what was discussed above. We want the city to not only be dynamic, but also reactive. And as you move around the urban environments, the objects around you will react to the cold winds of the Seattle winter. Fences, trees, even small things like trash bags and bicycles will react to gusts, then bring that extra touch of reality to the world. This means that ambience audio should respond convincingly to stimuli either driven by the player or from the environment. We achieve this by building a system of drivers and reactions. Sorry, this will get a bit technical, but such is the job. We perform an overlap check to find what static meshes are around the listener at any given time. Audio components are then moved from these locations, and if they are tagged to react to a driver, their audio will play based on how loud the driver is. For this to work optimally, we limit the amount of audio components available and prioritize where these components will be based on proximity to the player. As example, below you can see the sphere around the player that is checking for meshes. The green and blue spheres represent the meshes found. Green have audio components and the blue do not. So, traversing the city should be a satisfying experience whether on the street or on the rooftops. And a big part of this is ensuring that the environmental materials always sound appropriate in whatever way you choose to move around. This is achieved in multiple ways. Material switching, which, whether it's the player's feet or hands, we detect what material it hits and change the sound accordingly. Snow buildup. This is applied to objects in the world such as cars, bus shelters, and have been covered in snow. We introduce appropriate snow sounds on top of underlying materials. Runtime virtual texture covering the entire map. This texture allows footstep sounds to adjust depending on the level of snow, ice, slush in the road and alleyways. Our audio programmer intelligently compressed the resolution of this texture for optimal performance. Decals. Sometimes you'll find puddles of blood and other ground cover like leaves and trash. We do an additional check for these and layer sounds on top of the base material, so you get, for instance, a nice blend of concrete floor and walking on leaves footstep sounds. Water and wetness. Detected in a similar way to decals, except the player will remain wet for a certain amount of time after leaving after the water for a nice soggy shoe sound. Slopes. To support the variations in elevation, we cache the player's height and check whether they're moving up or down. Then this adjusts the pitch of footsteps and the sound type. There's even more to the player traversal and audio than mentioned above, such as different sounds for fires outfits or the audio design for vampiric traversal abilities. But we'll leave that for another time. More videos just with the sounds. City sense. Being hundreds of years old, fire seems Fires see in cities change as people live and die, and know that rooftops are a great place to avoid breaking the masquerade, and sometimes take in a vista. Having acute vampiric senses, we wanted the player to be able to tune into the city's past and present in a hyper-real way. To do so, we detected whether the player has been set still over a certain time and above a certain height. We then subtly attenuate the diegetic sound and gently introduce more designed ethereal sounds. Our Seattle is compromised of many other elements that complete its full soundscape, but hopefully this will give you something to listen out for that you otherwise may not have. Thank you for your interest. Right. So in Bloodlines 2, the UI audio serves as an extension of each player, reflecting not only their distinct personalities, but the essence of their eras and supernatural depths. For our protagonist Fire, the UI sound evokes her origins, weaving in period specific instruments and relics. This is a representation of the specific mind and thoughts. It also keeps the more fantastical energy of vampire in mind. So, in the final stages of game development, one of the most challenging aspects for the audio team is bringing the mix together. The diversity of narrative and gameplay context means that we need to go through the game meticulously, room by room, encounter by encounter, ensuring each moment elevates the player experience. The precision is key, and we have to zoom in and work with exacting detail. At times, this means bending the rules to amplify the moment. The game's acoustic model might suggest, for instance, that you shouldn't be able to hear the NPC through two doors and window, but it feels right to hear them. We'll definitely make it that an exception for the sake of immersion. One of our core pillars for the audio experience, in contrast, and it plays a vital role in mixing. For gameplay, this means highlighting the difference between feel and the raw intensity of combat, and the fluidity of vampiric traversal. Audio helps ground you when it counts, or lets you feel light, stealthy, and almost ethereal when you're on the move. For instance, we cut low end frequencies from player folly sounds during agile movements, adding a low, ominous whoosh as you close in on a target, reinforcing the sensation of a predator honing in for the kill. Combat mixing is especially tricky. We aim for impact without overwhelming the player with a repetitive, sharp sound. To balance this, we use priority mixing with combat audio. High priority sounds like player punching or hits lower the presence of the background sounds like footsteps or folly, while firearms are mixed at an even higher tier for clarity. Essential information for survival. We will always mix with sound and LFE content in mind, as we never want players to be disappointed when they plug our game into their swanky 7.1 home cinema setup. We even use deliberate sound mixing to accentuate some of the core narrative components in our title. For example, we position Fire's first person speaking voice very differently to where Fabian's voice plays from in your head, which certainly adds to the immersion. So, yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, and we hope you enjoy all the layers. For me, ambient and narrative audio design is a way to breathe haunting, layered life into the world. A craft I've especially relished in Bloodlines 2. Through audio, we can lend depth to an environment that other departments painstakingly crafted, imbuing each location with a sense of story, history, and character that oozes through the game. Our approach allows us to amplify the narrative tone through soundscapes that subtly guide the player's emotions. When we want the player to feel truly alone, we pull back elements from the soundscape, creating an eerie sense of emptiness that heightens their isolation. Or does the player need to feel more tense and on edge? We can then add in more obscure elements that contrast with what would normally be an ordinary ambiance. Through narrative audio design, we can also shape how players perceive their own presence within the environment. Do they feel like an unseen observer, or do they sense that they could be spotted at any moment? Do we want them to feel more secure in the area they're in and that they're able to blend in? One way I've been looking at creating this are ways in which we can push and pull the player's focus of the ambient sounds. Pulling sounds closer and playing back audio that sounds close up draws attention to the player's immediate position and actions, whereas the playing more distant sounds brings focus onto the wider area. Could allow the player to feel like they can blend in more. I'm truly looking forward to how players respond to our audio design and how these crafted sounds shape their experience in the world of Bloodlines. And then we got some more screenshots with audio. So green has sound, blue has no sound. Yellow, I think, is just diegetic, possibly. So with that, the Dev Diaries will take a holiday break and return on the 15th of January next year. We look forward to the new year and can't wait to show you everything we have planned for 2025. This includes showing off how you can customize fire, more information about the weapon systems, the planned DLCs, and most importantly, the release. From us at Paradox and the Chinese Room, we wish you all a pleasant holiday season full of food and fangs. All right, so that is going to be it for the Dev Diaries at this point. I hope you had a good time listening and it was a bit helpful. Remember that for the videos, just check in the description. I have the About page for Bloodlines 2 linked down there if you wanted to check out the videos for the audio. If you guys liked it, please give me a like again, share, subscribe, and I hope to see you guys next time. And I hope you have a very nice day, night, evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world.